Hello, I'm Kevin Benedict, Senior Analyst at the Center for the Future of Work here at Cognizant, and I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm very excited because I get to talk to somebody in the middle of one of the biggest transformations in mobility there is, and that's in the ruggedized and industrialized space. So, without further ado, let me introduce Nathan Clevenger. Nathan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Kevin. Good to be here.
Now, Nathan, where are you calling from today?
I'm in Minneapolis today.
All right. I get through Minneapolis all the time. So Nathan is the Director of Design and Development for iFactor, which is part of Zebra. So again, thank you for joining us today, Nathan. So as we get started here, I know Zebra, if we go back over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, has been kind of the big guy that's been pulling in and consolidating the market, especially around ruggedized and industrial grade mobility. Why don't you walk us through kind of where Zebra is today and over the last few years?
Sure, absolutely. So a lot of people are familiar with the name Zebra, but they're not exactly sure where they've seen it or so forth. But you probably have seen printers like this around. And so that is traditionally what Zebra's core business has been. Obviously, the company grew quite a bit with last year's acquisition of Motorola Solutions enterprise business, which brought a number of additional product lines. Everything from these ruggedized handhelds, like this new TC75, as well as wireless LAN products, RFID products, barcode scanning, etc. As the overall industry is evolving and changing, I think the focus opportunity is around what we at Zebra call enterprise asset intelligence, which is a combination of rugged computing, rugged mobility, a combination, plus the Internet of Things, plus cloud. And so it's the combination of all of that to deliver solutions to our customers.
Wow. So now walk us through this Motorola Solutions. Didn't they have an acquisition, several acquisitions right before you bought them as well?
Yes, they had acquired RoMobile, the platform. And so when you look at the whole landscape around applications in the context of mobility, what we see in the market is that there's generally 3 different ways that enterprises are building apps. A lot of companies are going native, and so for that, we offer not only native professional development services, but we also offer our native EMDK to access all of our mobile device features. Then a lot of the market is going HTML5, and for that we have our RoMobile platform. And then another segment of the market is really focused on C# and .NET, which is actually very significant in traditional mobility, because traditional Windows mobile devices, the native language was C# and .NET. So for that, we have Xamarin as well as iFactor as part of that acquisition. So,
got it. So now, in the handset, you guys own your own handsets too. Was that something that was traditional, or did you acquire that? Was that through the Motorola?
Yeah, so Motorola had also acquired Symbol, which actually is the brand that you still see on a lot of these devices. Yeah.
Got it. So that's the consolidation, where you're going out there and taking all kinds of different companies and pulling them under one roof, focused on industrial mobility. Is that correct?
Exactly, because what we've heard from the market is that customers want a solution. And so it's not just about hardware, it's not just about software, it's not just about services, it's about delivering, end-to-end solutions, technology-enabled solutions, if you will, through the combination of hardware plus software plus services. And that's how we pull it all together.
Very good. So Nathan, for those that may not know kind of the scope and scale of industrial mobility, why don't you walk us through some of the major industries that are your customers?
Yeah, so if you've walked through a retail store, you've probably seen devices like these, which have barcode scanners built in. Retail is a huge industry, and so there's a lot of opportunity there. Also, transportation and logistics. So if you've got a package from FedEx or UPS, they're delivering that, with a device like this. Then you have manufacturing, not only in the manufacturing types of facilities, but also the whole supply chain and delivery. There's a lot of direct-to-store delivery type use cases where the Cokes and Pepsis of the world will be delivering product to stores, and they'll have a device like this. And then a growing vertical for us is healthcare. And so you'll see all kinds of mobility across the healthcare industry. So those are the key verticals. Some really cool and exciting announcements. We just announced a deal with the NFL. We installed trackers, location trackers. Every player in the NFL is wearing multiple sensors, and we just installed the sensors in every stadium.
Wow.
And so you're going to see the ability for some amazing real-time statistics in upcoming live broadcasts, and that's made possible with our Zebra location technology.
That is so cool. I remember the days of John Madden where he had the X's and the O's and was always drawing over the screen. But now you're going to have precise sensor drawings on the screen.
Exactly. And so you can see, the acceleration. You can see how fast people are moving. They can measure how far apart the players are. And I think the long-term, potential of what you can do with predictive analytics, once you're capturing all of that, what's possible. I don't think we know yet.
Oh, I can just see all these fantasy football leagues where everybody's really data crunchers once the data starts pouring in. That's too funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about what the role that Zebra has played in consolidating the market, the kind of the industries that you're focused on that have big growth in there. Talk to us about, you talked about sensors. Why don't you expand on that? Outside of the NFL, where are you seeing your guys' really engagement with the Internet of Things?
Sure. So I think one of the most exciting things about the NFL deal is that it's a public example of what's possible. We also recently had an announcement with Boeing, where Boeing saw what we were doing with the NFL, and they said, you know what? Well, we don't have players, but we have a lot of situations where we need to track what's going on. And so they actually installed the same types of location sensors on the workers who are painting airplanes. And it's a huge safety thing, because if multiple people are on these devices painting airplanes, if there's a collision, that can be quite dangerous. And so using that technology to increase safety in Boeing's manufacturing operations, even though it's the same types of core technology. But that's one type of location, type of technology. But at Zebra we have RFID technology, as well as barcode technology, and all of the sensors in these devices. We've got NFC in here, we've got GPS, and so thinking of taking all of the capabilities of this device, leveraging the power of the cloud and Internet of Things. It's all about bringing that together, and big data and analytics are a huge part of that.
Got it. So Nathan, I know that because I have many years experience within the industrial side of mobility as well, having been a CEO there for 5 years in a company that did custom development in the industrial area. I have some experience in there, and I know that applications can be very expensive in that space because they're built for one individual in one process that's perhaps unique. So you have a lot of that in there. So when you have the consumerization of mobility, where you start having iPhones and iPads and all these great things come out, it's really hard to take those kind of green screen expensive apps and migrate them forward. Are you guys seeing the same thing? And if so, what are you doing about it?
Yeah, exactly. And so when you look at the market that we play in, what a lot of people even in the mobile industry aren't really aware of is the fact that 95% or so of the devices currently in production are running a really old operating system. They're running Windows CE or Windows Mobile. This is a kernel, an OS kernel that is more than 10 years old, that's
Wow.
still sitting around. And so what the opportunity and the challenge is now that Microsoft has deprecated, is in the process of ending support for Windows CE and Windows Mobile. There's a transition in OS migration that needs to happen. And so for those companies that have millions, and in some cases tens of millions of dollars invested in those applications, it's a very difficult challenge, because even if you stick with Windows, you're still talking about a complete rewrite, because going from Windows Mobile to Windows 10, we actually did an analysis. Only 11% of the APIs still exist. And so even though it's still C# and even though it's still .NET, you're still talking about a complete rewrite. And so whether you go to Windows 10 or want to move to Android, like most of our current portfolio, you're talking about a rewrite. And so that was the opportunity that we at iFactr's saw to help bridge that gap. So we developed an application virtualization technology that allows those existing Windows mobile apps to, without modification, now run on modern platforms and OSs like Android and Windows 10. But we didn't also just want to take that old user experience and bring it forward to the new device. So we developed a technology that allows you to overlay a rich and engaging modern user experience on top of your old app, put a new skin on it, but then take advantage of new device capabilities, take advantage of GPS, take advantage of NFC and RFID and all of these new sensing technologies that weren't previously possible in the older generations of the technology.
Wow. So you're actually bringing the data from, if you would, the green screens into a modern environment, but are you treating it almost as a widget within your framework?
So we have a number of different technologies for the actual green screen telnet applications, which a lot of people aren't aware of this, but in a lot of retail environments and warehouse management, actually within warehouse management, probably 90% of the applications in use today are still literally green screen telnet based applications. And so we have a technology that we call All Touch TE that allows you to put, again, an all touch based rich user experience on top of that. For those native applications, we have iFactor virtualization, the application virtualization, that we're not virtualizing the device, we're not virtualizing the OS, and it's not running on a server. Think of it as a virtual app container that does sit on the device and allows us to then put a richer user experience on top of that. And then for those customers that have HTML and web applications, we have our enterprise browser product that allows you to access printers and barcode scanners and so forth from within the browser, as well as our Row mobile platform as well. So it's not about one size fits all. Every customer has different requirements, and there are times where you need to use each of those types of solutions.
Wow, this brings me back to my roots, so it's a great conversation here. So now, one of the big challenges I know from the industrial side is so many of your integrations are going to be with big ERPs. What's your strategy around taking those industrial applications that really run much of the ERP? What do you do there?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've found, and being coming from the background that you have, if you want to touch an ERP, if you want to touch SAP, that's going to take a long time and cost a lot of money. And so one of the value that application virtualization provides is we don't have to reintegrate. If there's an existing app that already has, say, a database synchronization integration in place, it might be a deprecated product like SQL CE or SQL Mobile, but we have the as part of our virtualization technology, we virtualize that data layer. And so SQL CE can now run on Android and modern Windows devices. And so you don't have to redo that integration if you don't want to. Now, sometimes you want to, and there's a time and a place for that, but that's also why we're really expanding our professional services offerings to, again, give customers that complete end-to-end solution.
Got it. So as the rest of us have been impacted by the consumerization of mobility with the iPhones and the Androids and all that, how has that impacted you guys, and how does it continue to impact you guys on a daily basis?
Yeah, so probably the most significant impact from consumerization is the accelerating rate of change. It used to be that these devices and operating systems had a very scheduled forecast roadmap and release cycle, but now the release cycle is just incredibly fast, and that introduces a number of other challenges then, because we're now moving to operating systems that are built first and foremost for consumer devices. They're not purpose-built embedded operating systems. And so when OS makers now like Microsoft or Apple or Google are building an operating system, they think of it in the context of an 18 to 24-month hardware obsolescence cycle. But a lot of these devices are 5, 8, 10 years old. And so when you think of spending a significant amount of money for a ruggedized device, you're not going to throw it out after 18 months like you would a typical smartphone. And so
let me interrupt you just for a moment here. I want you to give us some perspective there. I mean, the average device there is going to be $2,000, right?
That's list with volume, it'll come down a little bit, but yeah, you're talking, several times the initial purchase cost. But if you look at the total cost of ownership over the lifespan of 3, 5, 6 years, a consumer device will break a lot more frequently. It will, not last as long. And so while there is a larger upfront type of investment for a ruggedized device like this, the long-term total cost of ownership is substantially lower.
Got it. So walk us forward here, Nathan. What does the future look like for ruggedized mobility, and how do you expect it to change over the next 24 months?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that's happening, and this also goes back to consumerization, is users' expectations have changed. It used to be that you could get away with a poor user experience. That's the way of enterprise software in a lot of cases. And so now you take that big Windows poor user experience you'd find in enterprise software applications, and that's often what you just shrunk down and put on these devices. But with consumerization, now that these devices are now running the same operating systems as the smartphone in the worker's pocket, if a guest comes into a retail store and asks assistance from an associate, the retailer now needs to make sure that their associates have technology that's at least up to date with what their marketing group is enabling the consumers with. And so, making sure that user experience is on that consumer grade level, that increases productivity, that increases workflow efficiency, as well as it saves a lot of money by lowering learning curve costs. Because the advantage of a modern smartphone is, people just know how to use it intuitively. And so by just putting a device in someone's hand, that's the new standard. Hand someone a device, and they should know how to use the apps to do their job.
So are you finding that within retail environments, as you just alluded to there, that you're needing to be able to have apps not only for the industrial, back end of the business that can look at things like the logistics and inventory and all that kind of stuff, but also you need to have one that interfaces with data so that they can be customer facing, kind of responding to answers and questions as well. So are you having to do both sides nowadays?
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of these old types of rugged devices weren't devices that you would want to show to a customer in a retail environment. And so, the ability to put a a rich, engaging application that's used by the store employee, for example, but is visible, side by side with the guest, is definitely a trend we're seeing in retail. And actually, just a couple weeks ago, we launched a new line of enterprise rugged tablets. And that use case is often a great use case for the tablet form factor.
Well, very good. So when should the industry, what kind of problems should they look to you guys to help solve?
So for those companies that are, they've made huge investments in their existing, Windows Mobile and Windows CE application investments, and now that end of life, all support will be ended by Microsoft by 2020. And so from a regulatory compliance type of situation, you probably don't want your handhelds running an unsupported operating system. So people know they have to move, but they don't necessarily know how, and it's often very, very painful. And so the reason the acquisition of iFactor, we were actually brought in, believe it or not, to the services organization, because what Zebra heard from their customers is they didn't just want another tool. They wanted a complete solution. And so for those customers that are on a legacy device and they need to move to a modern platform, we'll give you that whole end-to-end solution, the hardware plus the software plus the services, as one package.
Got it. So I use the phrase, and our team here at the Center for the Future Work use the phrase digital transformation often in our conversations and in the articles and research papers we're writing. But I see here that digital transformation is not just an idea, it's a tactical project for you guys.
Exactly. I mean, this OS migration is in some ways a pain, but it also presents an opportunity, because it is an opportunity for these organizations to transform their businesses, to modify their workflows and business processes, to take advantage of, again, these mega trends, the mega trends of mobility, Internet of Things, and cloud computing. And so delivering all of that together in a way that you can really drive business outcomes, that is probably the real opportunity that customers have right now.
Great. Nathan, you've been a wealth of information for all of us. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me.